Hey, what's going on, everybody? Christian Ballard Sports Media. A little different intro this time. I didn't really give too much introduction, but coming back at you today with another ACC football preview video going by conference this offseason for the college football season. And today we're going to be looking at the 2022 Virginia Tech Hokies, who I would consider a middle of the road, I guess. I'm not saying that to be harsh. I consider them a middle of the road type of ACC team, meaning that they're not quite on Clemson's level. They're not one of the worst teams in the ACC because, let's be honest, we all kind of look into that, right? Like we like to make this conference out to be bad when I really don't think the ACC is as bad as we think it is, or at least it seems like some teams are going in an upward direction, especially a team like Virginia Tech. Now they fired Justin Fuente. They bring in a new head coach, defensive coordinator Brent Pry, former defensive coordinator at Penn State, of course. A lot of great wins. He learned under Coach James Franklin, of course, who is doing a fantastic job with the Nittany Lions in State College. Brent Pry comes in. We don't know what to expect, but you can expect some good defenses. He's put some guys like Yetur Gross-Matos, Tariq Castro-Fields in the NFL in recent years, built up guys. Go look up Shaka Toney, which I think is probably one of the cooler names that I've heard in football in recent years. Shaka Toney. Gotta love that. But Brent Pry, he comes in, and he's dealing with a program that is good, but not great. You know, number one thing they got to do is figure out the quarterback situation, though. Braxton Burmeister left for San Diego State. However, they do bring in Grant Wells from Marshall University, and then from South Carolina, they bring in Jason Brown. Now, those two guys we can bet are going to battle it out this offseason. I didn't watch their spring game. I would assume these two guys came in, but these are the two guys that we can expect to battle it out for the Hokies starting quarterback position, right? Overall, and I think that the Hokies, they're a great team. They're just inconsistent. They went 7-6 last year, which go ahead and let's pull that up. 6-7, I should say. Lost the Pinstripe Bowl to Maryland. 7-6 overall. 6-6 regular season, 4-4 in the ACC. I think the past couple years for Fuente, he was doing good. He was putting together some good teams, having great starts to season. I mean, they could get off to like a 3-1, 4-0 start in the first month of the season, and they could do pretty good. But a little bit of decline. Was it just not catapulting enough? But let's look at what they did in Fuente's last year. They had it was like some good wins here or there, but probably too many losses. A great win. Okay, North Carolina. That's good. Middle Tennessee. Expected. Lose to teams like Notre Dame. Okay. Pitt. Again, probably a better team than Virginia Tech. You beat teams like Duke, Georgia Tech. Basically, honestly, looking at this now, it looks like their best win all season was indeed North Carolina. But not only did you lose the bowl game, it was a blowout, 54-10. It wasn't even that good of a game. I think I did a preview video for it. I know I did something for the Pinstripe Bowl because I remember that game and I watched it. I don't think I went live for it, but you beat teams like Duke, Georgia Tech. Those are the worst teams in the ACC. And I'm not here to take shots or anything. It's not like that. But, I mean, it's expected. So the last year of the Fuente era might not have gone as planned for the Hokies. But bring in Brent Pry to coach up this team, build this program. Hold on. Okay, there we go. Bring in Brent Pry to coach up this program and this team starting here in 2022. I apologize for the pause there. A little bit of technical difficulties on my end, but if you guys could still hear this. Brent Pry, who I mentioned is a defensive coordinator for Penn State, he's going to come in. He's going to want to build up the defense. I think the defense has been pretty good for Tech. I think offensive consistency has been the issue. Notice games like Pitt, 28-7, right? To hold a team and Kenny Pickett and everything they had to only 28 points at home, that's not bad, but you only scored 7, right? 17-3 against Boston College, 27-21 West Virginia, 38-26. He kind of kept it close with Miami, I guess. But, I'm excited to see what Brent Pry does. I think it's one of the more interesting offseason hires and one of the more interesting, I would say, new coaches in the ACC. I think the crystal ball to Miami and then Brent Pry to Virginia Tech, my personal opinion, are the two key new coaching hires I want to watch this year to see exactly what they do. But they had a great year in 2021. Or really, they didn't. I apologize. I mean, thanks a lot, Justin Fuente, I guess is what you could say if you're a Virginia Tech fan. But I think there's hope. I mentioned a quarterback battle. Grant Wells comes in from Marshall, and then Jason Brown comes in from South Carolina to battle it out this year in 2022. And I really, believe it or not, I don't know who I expect to win this battle, but it's going to be fun to watch. I think Jason Brown can win it. I've seen his highlights. The dude can run with the ball. The guy can throw, hit the broadside of a barn if you ask him to. I mean, he's got the skills. Grant Wells does too, right? Braxton Burmeister transfers out. So it's up to one of these two guys. So there is a quarterback battle, which does make it more interesting for the offense when you look at it, right? So here's the thing about Grant Wells. I'll say this, right? You mentioned Grant Wells here. The thing he has to do, right? He needs to keep the interceptions down to a minimum. Like he had 22 last year, I think, and like 34 touchdown passes. So that's good. Or that's like over the last 2 or 3 years with Marshall. So he's got to keep the interception ratio down. I've watched him play. I've watched his highlights. He tries to force balls that aren't there. He's got to pick that up. He's got to clean it up. Jason Brown is who he's got to battle for the starting job, right? Trey Turner, Tavion Robinson, are gone. Caleb Smith is the lead returning receiver with 20 catches for 260 yards and 2 scores last year. But Jaden Blue comes in from Temple. He's a dangerous playmaker. Nick Gallo is also a good receiver that they bring in as well. So the thing, here's the assessment of the offense. It's there. They just got to find the pieces. They got the pieces. It's like a puzzle, right? It's always like a puzzle in college football with either side of the ball. You have the pieces, Virginia Tech, but you got to fit them right. You got to get them together. You got to make big plays downfield. You got to find chemistry with your players. Everyone has to get along. Brent Pry comes in as a first-year head coach. He's not going to do anything to get a hot seat right away. He's not going to get fired. What do they – is it bowl win? If they go 6-6 and win a bowl game, right? Let's say they do that. They win a bowl game. Because, again, they went 6-7 last year. Let's say if they go 6-6 again, but they go 7-6. Is that a good first year for Brent Pry? And again, I want to hear from the Hokie fans out there. Shout out to Hokie for life, by the way. I haven't seen him on here lately, but if he's watching this, comment down below, Hokie. I love you, brother. It's going to be interesting. That being said, I know I'm rambling on a little bit. I apologize. Let's just look at what they got to deal with schedule-wise. They open up at Old Dominion. That should be no problem. Boston College, that could be a loss. Wofford, West Virginia, at North Carolina, at Pitt, Miami at home, off week, a bye week, October 22nd. Then they got a pretty interesting stretch here to close it out. At NC State, Georgia Tech, at Duke, at Liberty, and then Virginia at home. So, is it a favorable schedule? I think there's some games on here you need to look out for. I did not come up with trap games, but I did come up with their losses. I don't know what could be a trap. Wofford, really? No. Old Dominion, no. Boston College could be a trap game. The first, the first home game of the Brent Pry era. Lane Stadium in Blacksburg. Oh, and by the way, look at this. Someone come and look. What is this? SB Ballard Stadium in Norfolk, Virginia. SB Ballard Stadium. I got to Google SB Ballard. Hold on. What is this? Norfolk, Virginia. We're going to look at this real quick. I don't normally do this or like taking breaks in my preview videos, but I got to find this SB Ballard Stadium. That's a cool stadium name, first off. SB Ballard Construction. Formerly Foreman Field is in Norfolk, Virginia. Multi-purpose stadium on Old Dominion's campus. It actually looks pretty cool. Old Dominion, you got a stable stadium, and I like the name too. SB Ballard Stadium, home of Old Dominion. Anyway, so they go to Old Dominion, Boston College, Wofford. I think they could go 3-0 before they enter the West Virginia game, which makes that one more interesting. We'll get to the Big 12 next after the ACC, and we will look at West Virginia and JT Daniels and everything they bring in. At North Carolina, at Pitt, Miami is your homecoming game on October 15th. You get a bye week at NC State, Georgia Tech, at Duke, at Liberty, Virginia. I think you beat teams like Virginia. Well, kind of, sort of. I'm going to go bold here. I'm just going to go ahead and throw this up and say they could go 9-3. I think anywhere between 6-6 and 9-3. 9-3 is at least their ceiling. They're not quite to 10 wins. In fact, I'm probably just being generous. The losses I see are UNC, Pitt, and Miami. Those teams are just better than them. Here's the thing. I love the Brent Pry hire. And I think Virginia Tech fans should like the hire too. I think everything he did to build up great defenses at Penn State, he can bring that over. And you have Grant Wells, from Marshall. And you got Jason Brown from South Carolina. I mentioned the quarterback position and everything they got over there. They also bring in guys like Jaden Blue back from November. He's in from Temple. They brought in Jason Brown. They brought in Stefan Gosnell from UNC, who's a wide receiver. They got Taj Gary, who left to go to Tulsa. But they bring in Fadarius Payne on the defensive side of the ball. They've brought in a few transfers. They've also lost a few key guys, too, like Bryce Goodner, an interior offensive lineman to Chattanooga, Tennessee. Here's the thing. West Virginia is a good football program. They are. They're not too bad. Not too shabby. They're middle of the road in the ACC. And I think overall for college football, they are tier 3, tier 4, but they're stable. They're stable. If they miss out on a bowl game, they're 4-8 or 5-7. Usually like a 5-7. And they had a tough game, right? If they do make a bowl game, they're probably 6-6 to a 9-3, right? And 9 times out of 10, I see them in bowl games every single year. I like them against teams like Duke. I like them against teams like Georgia Tech. I like them against teams like Liberty. I like them against most of these teams on the schedule. Not Miami. Hold on. Let's see. Again, I mentioned not Miami, not Pitt, not UNC, right? But other teams, I think they could beat. I think they could beat Georgia Tech. I think they could beat Liberty. I think they beat Duke. I think that they beat Virginia. I think that they beat West Virginia even. Now, West Virginia could be a trap game. If things get going with JT Daniels and everything they got over there, that could be tough. But when in doubt, you know what I say? Pick the home team. So I'm kind of in doubt about that game. Old Dominion should be no problem, although I don't know. I like that stadium name. I might know who I'm pulling for. But, I mean, come on. Wofford, Pitt. Well, that's a loss. North Carolina, that's a loss. Miami. Those are 3 losses in a row. After that, they get a bye week. They should come. Imagine if they did lose. And that's what's weird is they have that 3-game stretch against the 3 toughest teams on their schedule, all back to back, a triple header in October, then a bye week in NC State. They could lose 4 in a row. They could lose 5 in a row. They could lose a lot. I think eventually Brent Pry is going to get this team back to where they need to be and build it up. But I also don't think it's going to take too long. Again, I say 9-3. Brent Pry brings a lot over in his mind for defenses in college football that he had at Penn State. He brings that over to Blacksburg. I'm very high on this hire and what he could do for this program. I'm going to say 9-3. Would it surprise me? Like I say, 6-6 at minimum. If they're below 500, it would shock me because they're usually not like that. 6-6 to 9-3. 9-3. I'm going to just put the ceiling up. For the most part, is 9-3. But again, could they lose games like West Virginia? They could. Who else do they have? Could they lose to NC State? Very much. They could lose to Virginia. They could lose to Boston College. What they won't do is lose every game on their schedule. That's for sure. But anyway, that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I'm going to stick to 9-3. If not, maybe 8-4 or 7-5. They are Bowl eligible. They are a team to make that. They are a team to compete with that. They are a team that should not be overlooked too much. And I feel like maybe this is one of those teams that is being overlooked going into next season. And I think that this could be a team that is, even though they're overlooked, um, maybe they have a lot of doubters out there that they can prove wrong. So I'm going to say 9-3. I'm going to stick to it. And I think for the first year of the Brent Pry era, I think you could see some big things, and I think it's only up from here. Now, could they have a good start like this and then have a drop-off year to 7-5 or 6-6? Absolutely. With teams like this, it happens all the time, and that's okay. But I think to start, dude, Virginia Tech, y'all are right there. You're not 10 wins. You're pretty close to it. 8-4. Again, those 3 losses, UNC, Pitt, Miami. If I had to add a 4th loss, I might say West Virginia, and you lose 4 in a row. I just think they're better than the other teams on their schedule. But I'm going to leave it up to you guys in the comments and let me know down below what you guys think. I think they're in a good position. I like what they bring in from the transfer portal. They did lose a few guys, but a lot of them are backups. They bring in guys on the defensive side of the ball. They bring in a quarterback. They bring in a wide receiver. They bring in 2 quarterbacks, I should say. They bring in 2 wide receivers. I think they brought in a corner or whatever. But we'll see. I think it's only up from here for Virginia Tech. And even if they have a 5-7 or whatever, a slow start, I think Brent Pry could show that he's the guy. I love you guys. I'm going to get out of here. I'll leave it to you guys in the comments down below what you think of Virginia Tech, anything that I might have missed, because I feel like I covered it all. We talked about the transfers. We talked about how they got a couple different options at the quarterback position. I think this will be one of the more interesting quarterback battles of the season going into it. This is going to be fun. I might have to watch some Hokie football this year all day long because they got, I mentioned Braxton Burmeister transfers, but Grant Wells or Jason Brown from South Carolina, 2 transfers, one of them from the SEC, 2 highly recruited guys. This could be fun, and I'm excited to watch it. I love you guys. Jesus loves you. Please like, comment, and subscribe right here to Ballard Sports Media for more sports content. And until next time, folks, your boy Ballard Sports Media. Check it out. Love y'all. Peace. See ya.